Please welcome the President of Retail Banking at Bank of America, Thong Nguyen, and Partner and Global Lead, Financial Institutions Practice at A.T. Kearney, Bob Hedges.
Like that. Good afternoon. Thong, thank you so very much for joining us today from Palo Alto.
Thanks for having me.
It's hard to think of anything as exciting and fun today as the retail banking business. And in your role at Bank of America, you're certainly challenged to keep up with what customers are interested in. What's your view today of how customer needs and expectations are changing?
Sure. I mean, let's start with our purpose of helping our customer financial lives. That has not changed, so it's always been a tenet of our entire business model, but it's all around understanding the needs in order to help their financial lives. And the customers have told us it's always three things. One is keep things so simple for me that I don't have to think about it. But two is, if I need you, be there for me in person, right? In moments of truth. And three is, if you want a relationship, what's in it for me? So our purpose doesn't change, and around meeting that purpose, the customer, three basic needs, that hasn't changed. What has changed over the years is just the behavior within those, right? So keep things so simple for me that I don't have to think about it. It meant something different 20 years ago, versus now, and versus 5 to 10 years from now. Same thing if I need you, be there for me, and the types of things that I need you for have grown a lot more complex. So that's where we,
And what are the biggest behavior changes if you were to make a list? Like, what's the biggest thing that you're seeing different today than?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that as an example, Bob, keep things so simple for me. I mean, certainly the people in this room here, but the millennials, as you grow up, yes, you deal with the bank, but your life is surrounded by your dealing with the Amazon and the Google and so on and so forth. So those experiences are the benchmark of what it means to be simple. So for us, financial institutions, for instance, it's no longer providing sort of best in class in the industry, but really taking an Amazon and a Google as a benchmark around that. I mean, so the business model has really evolved over the last couple of years. So if I may share with you sort of where we have been
Sure.
and maybe where we're going. But if you think about the things that our customers do with us, you engage with somebody because you need a 529 401k or checking account, savings account, auto loan. Once you have that, you transact, right? And then if you have a problem, you call the customer service to help fix your problem. Now, in the past, 5, 6 years ago, the way we have deployed the resources to help our customers have been very, very, very much sort of in the back end, meaning the transactions. I mean, that's why we have 6,100 branches and 22,000 tellers and thousands and thousands of people in the customer service. And in the front end, in the engagement, it's been just a little bit more less high touch than it needed to be.
Sure.
So we will be sending out direct mails, or wait for people to walk into the branches, or using third parties to do that. And basically, going back to the customer needs, make things so simple for me I don't have to think about it. That would mean when I transact, right, or when I need help with customer service. Meanwhile, be there for me when it counts. So our strategy has been to really move the people to help our customers when it really matters in a high-touch way. So we have reduced the number of branches and the number of tellers helping them, and yet we have more businesses and we transact more. For instance, today, the deposits through the mobile is about 18% of all the deposits, and equivalent to 830 branches. I mean, just think about that for a second, right? Same way, we automate things in the back end, but conversely, what we're using the buildings and the people for is really to be there to help the customers when it counts. And as a natural extension, as we move forward, we continue along the spectrum around that, which is to utilize more and more of the digital platform to make things so simple for people who don't have to think about it when they transact, or the customer service, the use of AI, we talked about that in the last couple of days, and conversely, doubling down on the buildings and the high touch.
One of the paradoxes that you're describing is the more you use technology, the more at the point of customer contact, greater value is actually going to be added. Is that a fair way to?
Absolutely.
think about it?
Absolutely. And look, I mean, while we're doing all this, I mean, the customer satisfaction for us has been an all-time high, right? And so while things are automated, people are actually happier around that. One example that I use is a boarding pass. I mean, it used to be that you waited online at the airport for everything, including the boarding pass. You fast forward today, if all you need is a boarding pass, you do it from home. You get a seat in advance, you get de-stressed, or you do it with the kiosk or on a mobile phone. It's actually a better experience, and oh, by the way, it's highly efficient.
Right.
Now, you need the agent because you change your flight or you want to manage your travel.
Now, with all the changes that you've been making and all the responding to new and emerging needs from consumers, how do you keep track of what customers actually want and expect?
Sure. No, that's a great question. And look, we're very humble about that, right? At the end of the day, you see this whole sort of progression of business model is really to follow where our customers are going with their behavior and all the changes that we just talked about. But we constantly look into the future. Again, the purpose of helping people's financial lives is to understand how they're going to live in the first place. So, our parallel track of managing, 1 to 3 years out, but also 5 to 10 years back in, has a lot to do with, engaging with our customers and our experts to say, look, what do you think life is going to be, 5, 10 years from now? So literally, we have hired a panel of the 20 smartest people in the world from MIT and Stanford and behaviorists and technologists and whatnot, and say, what are some of the key trends that will define people's lives, 5 to 10 years from now?
And what have you learned, or what is the big trend on that 7 to 10 year time frame that's struck you as being, boy, the world's really changed?
Sure, a couple of examples. The shift from ownership to sharing, for instance. Implication for us is that, okay, well, we're helping people own things, whether it's a home or a car, whatever. But now, if people start to move into sharing, how do you think about that?
Right.
Or, for instance, identity.
So how would you do that? Like, how would a bank help a consumer share something versus own something?
So basically, I can help you between a bank and somebody, or I can connect you, right? Across sort of the ecosystem, because we do have half of the household in the United States. So that's part of connecting people. And again, if you go back to our purpose, is really helping people financial lives, through the power of every connection.
Right.
And so insofar as we can connect people, around that thing, that's one thing. A second thing is identity is very important. Today, just think about the 20 passwords you have to remember, and that will become more and more important as you start, doing things and shopping and whatnot. So for us is to think, hey, look, if I trust you, the bank, to keep my money safe, might you be there for me to keep my identity safe in the future?
So it's a future product opportunity or solution for the bank. Let's talk about payments. You spend a lot of time on payments. How would you articulate the bank's payment strategy and proposition?
Sure. It is particularly important for us because payments is a huge driver of economics. I won't share with you numbers, but if you go to analyst calls and whatnot, you can deduct that it is the single largest revenue and profit stream for us. Two is that there are a lot of changes, obviously, because of customer behaviors, but also the regulatory landscape and whatnot. So the question is that how do we think about that, again, in terms of today and the future? So the way we think about it, it's a very simple framework in payments. People pay people, people pay businesses, and businesses pay businesses, right? And start with the customers. What is important to them? When people pay people, they want something very, very simple, safe and free. The way they use cash, but even better. When people pay businesses, let's say you go shop at a merchant, what's in it for me? I want to do it because it's rewards, it's safe. If the product is not, as advertised, and an easy checkout, make it so simple. Now, what's in it for? The Best Buy, the Walmart, which is, hey, look, the payment is the last thing, right? Which is you buy things and then, on the way out, make it simple. Cost of payment should be low, but also, help me get more customers. And then when, business pay businesses, Boeing to its suppliers, it's really around the liability of, if the part that's shipped does it arrive safely? And so if we do those things right, the economics is huge, right, for the people who are doing it right. So if we can effectively replace, provide a nice, good, and convenient person-to-person it's the reduction of cash and checks. Just to give you, a sense, cash and checks today, at least in the US, is 10% of the transactions, but 40% of the spend and 50% of the cost, right? For us, I mean, that's in billions of dollars. So any chunk that we're taking into that, it's real economics. And then, when people pay businesses and we do it right, it's really the increased utilization of our cards, however people want to use our cards, credit and debit card. And then, with the merchants, at the end of the day, merchants care only about, a couple of things. Help me get more customers, help them to spend more, and then, stay more with me, around that. And then, for us to help our global, commercial clients is really one more thing that we can help them with.
Right. So people to people, what's the specific set of things the bank's rolling out right now in that payment product category?
I'm glad you asked. So we have announced 2 days ago Zelle, which is a joint effort by a number of banks to go out there to solve for a couple of things, right? Which is exactly how do we make that simple, free, ubiquitous. And so it's called Zelle, and I'm a sort of walking billboard here, not getting paid for it, but 3 things. Number 1 is the interface has to be extremely simple and easy to use. 2, it has the safety and soundness of the banks, and that's huge, right? And then 3, we will reward people for the relationship with the banks, behind that. So if you keep that, I think that's going to be more to come.
And what's your expectation for uptake and growth in that category?
Well, today, without Zelle, I mean, we are already doing it with some of the existing, more clunky, if you will, P2P, and that in itself is already, quite a bit. We have, tens of billions of dollars in something that's already clunky. So, with a great experience of Zelle and the ubiquity of it and the value and the safety and soundness, I think it's going to be, quite there. And again, the banks have worked very closely together for the benefit of the customers. And for us, I mean, we have been sort of leading the charge on that. We were, first real time with that. And in December, we're going to have, the real Zelle customer experience, even before the branding.
So consumers to businesses, what's the new thing the bank's rolling out in that category?
Yeah, so on that one is, whatever drives utilization of the credit cards, right? And so, people go to our credit cards and debit cards directly. And then if they want to use that through different types of wallets, mobile wallets or, website or whatever, we're working with all the major, partners around that, Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and Visa Checkout, and PayPal.
Now you have up on your slide, working more effectively with merchants, which is like a multi-decade challenge to the banking industry.
Sure.
What's going to be happening from Bank of America to be more effective in that area?
Sure. I mean, merchants are our partners out there, and I think that, merchants always want value. You can deliver value 2 ways. Either you give me more revenue, top line, or you give me, lower cost, right? And I think that, it's always been the latter, and I think that as we move forward is really how do we expand the pie together. So we go to, Best Buy and say, look, you have your customer, Best Buy customer, and you have a Bank of America customer, and rather than just, deal with it as a payments, why don't we sort of treat that as a common customer, right? Combine the data to expand the experience from just payment to the whole shopping thing, which has a before, the during, and the after. So instances are, by combining the data, you can have much more targeted offers at the SKU level, for instance.
Right.
And during the shopping, you can have multi-currency. You pay $100, you can pay $30 in, Best Buy points and $30 in BAC points, and the rest on the credit card, and then you have digital receipts in the back end.
And then finally, cross-border. It's been in the news recently, banks working on that topic. What's in store from Bank of America there?
Yeah, so the user case, the example is our commercial clients. Let's take Airbnb as an instance. Today, a rentor in San Francisco, Las Vegas, renting a house in Bali from somebody. By the time you get connected and you get paid, it might take 6 or 7 days around that. And so to basically allow them to access the network to have real-time payment directly. So behind that is kind of a blockchain network in the middle with partnerships with the local players that can, WeChat or Alipay at the last mile will allow that to happen.
That's great. Now, one of the fun hot topics in payments is the role of wallets. And Bank of America may be unique in some cases regarding the posture that you've taken. Why don't you spend a minute on your view of the role of the wallet and how the bank wants to play?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people have different, ways of doing that. Our view is very simple. I mean, if you allow me, a wallet is a piece of leather here where you put a bunch of cards in. When you get into this space, you might use 2 cards, and then you have to choose between, 7, 8 wallets. And it's very confusing to people. So for us, we made a conscious decision that, the last thing we want to do is to introduce yet another wallet for people to choose. So whatever wallets are out there, again, going back to customer choice, we will play with them, and our game is to be top of wallet, right? So, we've been, there at the get-go with Apple Pay and Samsung Pay, Android Pay, Microsoft Pay, working with Visa Checkout and, MasterPass and as we move into the PayPal area as well. So I think that for us is really to look, whatever you use, either our cards directly or any wallets, we want to be top of wallet.
So yesterday, Michelle Moore from Bank of America announced here at Money 2020, Erica, your foray into the use of AI. Why don't you spend a minute and just describe what AI means to Bank of America and how you intend to use it?
Sure. The AI, you saw the progression of the consumer bank that I showed you in the next 5 or 10 years is going to be particularly important around replacing very simple tasks that are repetitive, right? So for instance, if you call into the customer service just to ask for certain types of fees or overdraft and that sort of things, and it's over and over again. I mean, we have 600 million interactions per month. By the time you and I are done here, it's almost 100,000 interactions. I mean, that's mind-boggling. And so I think that what we're trying to do is to have a way to provide the service and the answer in a very efficient but consistent way, right, for the people. So that's really, the way to do that. And then 2 is proactively engaging with the customers on their own terms. So the way you would think about that is we have sort of a #1 rated digital platform today, online and mobile. But the next step in the 5 to 10 years, and we're starting today, obviously with the announcement of Erica, is to overlay that artificial intelligence to go beyond automating, right? And Erica is a little bit different from Alexa, let's say, is because once you understand your goals, what you're trying to do.
Give us an example of how it might work.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you go in and there's the intake and say, well, what are you trying to manage? So, okay, well, I'm trying to not spend more money than I have. I want to keep a great credit score, and I don't want to pay interest on my credit cards where it's going to be a closed loop. Once she understands that, not only does she take your commands around transferring money and data and everything, but Erica would engage with you and say, Bob, at the rate that you are spending now, you're going to take a hit on your FICO score, right? Or if you want to pay a little bit less on your interest, on your credit cards, you might want to pay a little bit more to eat into your principal. So based on your goals, she helps you manage along the way very, very proactively and very, very engaging.
Now robo-investing is also sort of an AI execution, isn't
Absolutely.
it? And Bank of America has things in the works there as well.
And we just announced as well the Merrill Edge, which is a great engine. Obviously, we have Merrill Lynch as a great investing engine, but then we make it as simple for people to manage their investments. And again, it's the consistency of that. We have the #1 research company in the world, Merrill Lynch, and we have a great CIO around that. It will be a pity not to deliver that in a very consistent way. However, we still need the experts and the people to engage, and so that's what the financial service advisor is for. So the analogy is when you fly a plane, you need the pilot for the takeoff and the landing because those are complex tasks, but you put an automatic pilot along the way. So AI will always work with kind of a high-tech, high-touch weaving in and out and help
and it goes back to your earlier point about at the point of customer contact, you can add the most value and then use AI to sort of make things happen.
Absolutely. We do AI, we do sort of payments, everything, so that we do things more consistently and more efficiently for transactions and customer service, so we can actually give the resources and the people to be there and help the customers when it counts.
Hey, as we wrap up here, and as a guy who's been involved in the financial services industry for a couple of decades, you can remember the day when at a big industry conference like this, banks were described as being technological dinosaurs. What's your view today from where you sit?
Well, by following our customers and their behaviors, Bob, you saw the journey that we have. I mean, clearly we have done a lot in the last 5 or 6 years, and we're going to do more in 5 to 10 years. We are as much a fintech company as a high-touch, regular bank. And again, not because we're visionary or anything, we just follow where our customers are going.
Follow the customers. Thanks for spending time with us this afternoon and joining us at Money 2020.
Thanks very much, and thanks for having me.